He did a really nice job. He came in, didn't skip a beat. Marquise can be a really good football player in this league. After the Rams game, felt like he needed to take a step back and just kind of absorb a little bit more. And now he's getting his opportunity. And obviously, first game went pretty good.
Rookie defensive tackles have made some strides over the last month or so. What did you see from those guys, particularly in the run game?
The biggest thing is they're learning in terms of the different blocking combinations that they can get. It's a lot more complex than what they would have saw in college. And they're doing a really nice job disengaging faster than when it first started. So they've gotten better every week. They're very deliberate in everything they've been doing, and we're obviously really excited about their trajectory.
On that last play, their last offensive play, are you thinking tendencies? Who Jalen Hurts likes to go to in that situation? What's going through your head on fourth down?
Well, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of recall, a lot of notes on that little sheet I have in my hand. And back in 23, we were set in the same situation, 2x2, little hook route to the tight end. Not saying that that's what we were thinking. It's just one of those recall moments. But they are who they were at that moment, and we had, you play your odds, you play your numbers, you play the down and distance, and luckily it worked out.
Last time you faced Seattle, you gave up 13 points. They ran the ball well and you didn't force any turnovers. When you look back at your game plan from that game, do you feel like I need to be more aggressive to force turnovers, or 13 points is 13 points?
No, we need to do better on third down, and which means we need to do better on first and second down in terms of limiting the leaky yardage that we allowed. It felt like after the first quarter we settled in and played the run game very well. There was a couple of plays early in the game. Obviously, the 3rd and 2 that went for 30 yards, the 3rd and 17 that inflated the numbers more than we would have liked. But overall, felt like we really settled in the last 3 quarters with regard to the run game. What we weren't very happy about was our third down performance, and that's where, in every game, when you could look at it, when offense is struggling on third down and defense is struggling on third down, you're going to end up in a situation where they're hogging the ball, and it's going to be hard to score. We were fortunate that we only gave up 13 points, and we're going to have to play a lot better to keep it that way.
On that note, what are the challenges or benefits of playing a team twice in such a short amount of time?
I'm not sure. There's not a lot of new information. Obviously, we're their last game, and so you take what you have. They've had 2 weeks to kind of self-scout and come up with new things, and so there's going to be some things that we have not seen and that they have not shown on tape. That's the benefit of having the number 1 seed. But at the same time, when it's a division opponent, them. The players know each other. They know how they feel. They know the blocking. There's just a familiarity. So it's always going to come down to a couple of plays that decide the game. So
there's so much talk about culture in this organization when it comes to John talking about it and Kyle a little bit. I'm curious, did the culture here change at all while you were away, or did you come back to the same place?
Good question, man. Culture to me is always about the people. It's not the words, it's the people. And I think John and Kyle have done an outstanding job staying true to the people they want in this building. That goes from coaches, staff members, everybody, including players. And I think when you bring in the type of person you want, the culture will easily form itself. That makes sense. And I think they've done a really nice job staying disciplined to that. And that locker room was filled with people built of the right character.
At the start of the season, I asked you what was your realistic expectation for a defense that was so young, and of course it's only gotten younger. Are you surprised at all with how they've been able to play when you think of the tackle Marquise Siegel made on Saquon Barkley, or how Stout has been able to make an impact out there? Has it been surprising to you with the youth and how much they've been able to produce?
No. Coach Bradley says it all the time that the mother of learning is repetition, right? And So you trust that if they get enough reps, if they keep getting reps, and they're deliberate in their reps, and they're learning from their mistakes, you naturally are going to get better. Now, how fast they get better is you never know, but it's not surprising that a guy like Stout has improved throughout the year. He's banked, I don't know how many reps, but he's got all the practice reps, OTAs, training camp, practices, game reps, and he's been put in some really critical situations throughout the entire season. And he's getting more and more confident with what he's being asked to do. He's recognizing more and more what offenses are trying to do, and he's learning. And so naturally they're going to get better. And so it's exciting to see. We've done it before with young guys, and the whole league has always seen, like, the more young guys play, the faster they get. So it's exciting to see them, but it's not surprising.
A lot has been. It seemed like your communication in this game was really good. Wallow, Kendricks, and then in between series, I saw you on the bench talking to the guys. Did you feel the need to, be more communicative between series because you do have a young group and the stakes are pretty high?
No. First off, Johnny, KJ, they just an outstanding job preparing those two, and credit to Wallow and Kendricks with how hard they've worked since they've got here to get brought up to speed. So an outstanding job in terms of preparation. And Kendricks is a veteran. And Wallow's a veteran. They have a natural feel for football, and thought they did a great job with communication. We had a lot of things this week to try to, from a schematic standpoint, and just we were making a lot of adjustments on the sideline, and those guys were able to absorb it. The guys were very, very. They were locked in, all three levels, and They really made it an easy game to coach because of, they were completely locked in, so they made it easy. No, you're okay, bud. Go ahead.
In a week this tight, have you interviewed for any head coaching positions this week?
No, not yet.
Scheduled this week before. I know this is the week
They're
to do it.
for Sunday.
Sunday.
A lot has been made about Fred's practice window opening. What interactions have you had with him, and what was the vibe when he stepped on the practice field yesterday?
Fred, I'm just pure energy. Fred's the ultimate energy giver, and so just having him out there is awesome. And so we, yesterday was a little bit more tempo down, but today, obviously with higher tempo, it'll be fun to get him out there, see him running around.
After the game, Eric Kendricks gave KJ a lot of credit for working extra with him. Did you know that was happening behind the scenes, or did you see that extra work that they were putting into that game?
Yeah, that's the assistant linebackers coach is responsible for anyone new in the building to just make sure they're getting caught up while the position coach is working with the guys who are getting ready to play. So KJ's put in a lot of hours with Eric and Wallow, for that matter, to get them up to speed, and when it was their time to step in into the week, it goes to Johnny, and like I said, that's why both of them just outstanding job in preparation over the last month with those two.
Kendrick always talks about having to save Christian from himself sometime because of how much he loves the game. Is there any of that between you and Fred Warner?
Give that to me one more time.
Like, he has to save Christian from himself because of how much he loves the game and how much he loves himself. Any of that between you and Fred?
No. Okay. Fred, I think it's different. Christian, obviously he's a high volume back. Where shoot on defense, it's just different. You guys go ahead, Grant.
Kendricks probably isn't the player he was a few years ago. At one time, he was one of the best linebackers in the league, and I would imagine his professionalism and his communication still carries over. How nice is it to have that caliber of pro on the field?
Oh, it is. I think it's a force multiplier, right? Like his communication creates a calm to all three levels of the defense, gets people lined up, and that's where communication can excel at its fastest and or be at its best. And I thought, like I said, he was outstanding with regards to all the checks. I'm not sure he could be much better. Hopefully he can duplicate it this week.
Kyle mentioned after the game that you were the one that kind of suggested the touchdown passes to McCaffrey. Can you just kind of take us through like why you thought that moment was the right time and how you guys had kind of set it up before that?
I suggest lots of plays, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I think we liked that play going into the game because of the coverages we were going to get. We thought it was a pretty safe call. Wasn't many things they would do that would make it a bad play as long as we executed it. And we had the timeout. We had the end of the quarter, so it kind of gave us some time to put some thought into what we wanted to do, and we're on the right hash, which is what we have to run that play on. And I just saw it on the call sheet, and I was like, this might be good. Suggested it, but that's kind of how it goes the whole game. Kind of suggest things, and some get called, some don't, some work, some don't. But that one was a good play. Guys executed, so that's what mattered most.
You had run the reverse to Sky. Was there anything that you saw, the way they reacted to that play, that you thought maybe we could come back to it right quick?
Just the coverages they played the whole game, we knew that was going to be set up, and that was nice to call the jet sweep to Sky just to show that we were going to give him the ball. And maybe it got those guys to play him a little more, but it was just really more based on the style of defense and the coverages we were attacking.
Early in the play, it seems like the safety picks up or at least notices Christian coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're up on high. Are you watching that and freaking out at that moment?
I mean, yeah, he was in a position where I thought he could play it, but clearly he kind of got caught in that no man's land, not knowing what was going on, which was good. But Jauan's coached up on that too. If that safety does take Christian, you either got to run or throw it away. So we had a plan B.
As a play caller, are you aware which of your weapons were quarterbacks in high school? Which guys are right-handed? Which guys are left-handed? Which guys can make those throws?
Yeah, you got to practice it that way. You can't put a guy in a position where he's got to really turn his body unnaturally. And if he doesn't work on it, for sure. So yeah, you got to be aware of. You got to be on the right hash to make that call. And there's other ones that are like that too, where you got to call it at the right time with the right person based on how they can throw. So yeah.
How many times would you say you've repped that play in practice? Did you rep it last week?
Not as many as you'd think. We've had it up a couple times this year. We always kind of rep it once or twice in the week, usually in a walkthrough. You don't usually devote a full speed rep to it because there's other things you got to get to. So it's just something we've repped, and guys were ready for it. So it's cool.
Jauan's throw.
That was an A+. That was fantastic. Yeah.
An example of how your relationship and play calling has evolved with Kyle.
I just think over time, the more comfortable I get, the more comfortable he gets with me, the more I'm involved in game planning. I just think it just kind of naturally, I see the game as a play caller. I'm as the game goes on, I'm looking at it through the eyes of I'm calling this game. And so whenever the time comes up to suggest something or I'm asked for a suggestion, I feel like I need to be ready. So I put myself through those scenarios. I put myself through that lens of I'm calling this game. So when Kyle needs help, I'm prepared to give him suggestions. I think Kyle's kind of gotten to a point where he knows that I'm thinking that way. And so we're kind of on the same page. And then it's all about the preparation through the week. We prepare together. We go through all the scenarios together. We talk about situations. Him and I are very much on the same page with those things. And, I just think it's just the time working together, the time on task, and the relationship to where we're in a spot where we can kind of, hopefully bounce ideas off each other and go from there.
He's mentioned that, when he's asked for plays, he's mentioned when he's asked for plays, people come in and he talks to them and he asks the why. And can you give us a little example of maybe some time that it didn't work out where you didn't have the why?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. That's just game planning. The why is what's our intent of the play? What are we trying to attack in the defense? What are we trying to who are we trying to get open? What who are we trying to get a double team on? Whatever it is, why are we running this? What's the intent? If they don't do that, do we have a good answer? Is the play safe to call? Is there a good check down for the quarterback? Is all those things go into play? And sometimes you come up with something and you sit down and think about the why and you go, never mind. Let's move on. Let's take that one off the list. That happens a lot, but that's part of the process, of going through the game plan. Yeah.
The preparation, given the challenges faced for the offense against the Seahawks just a couple weeks ago, how does it alter or help you guys to adjust the preparation of this week, going to see them once again in such a short time span?
It doesn't change our process at all. We go through the same process. We watch the same film we watched 2 weeks ago. Sometimes you see new things. Sometimes you see things differently. You definitely look at the game that we played and see, okay, what do we have to do better? But there's just not much tape to watch. So you're limited. You've kind of watched it all. And, it's just going to come down to executing. It's going to come down to our guys playing their best. We can do things a little bit different as coaches. We got to help them more, definitely learn from the last game. But you just watch that tape and you put a plan together and you got to go play football. So, yeah.
You have things left over from the game plan 2 weeks ago that you didn't use the first time?
Yeah, we do, for sure.
Coach, what's the challenge when they keep the two safeties deep and they kind of almost challenge you guys to run the ball and you're struggling to run it? What's plan B at that point? Because that's what happened, it seemed like in week 18.
You're saying when they're defending the run from the two shell? yeah, I mean, that's why you got to run the ball versus that. That's why you got to try to get them out of that. You know, when teams can defend the run in two shell, that's what they want, you know, so that they can keep those safeties deep and be in the pass coverages they want to play. The thing that with these guys, they do a good job of playing their two shell, but then all their coverages complement that. They can kind of fit the run from their single high from those two shell looks. So it's a huge challenge, but the challenge is on us. We got to run the ball better. We got to be better on third down so we can get more ops to run the ball. That's really the biggest thing is if we got to stay on the field so that we can keep calling runs. Then hopefully, you know, you can get the defense to commit another guy in the box, which helps other things. So that's the plan. That's just football. We got to execute and stay on the field, and hopefully those runs will come.
They also stay in nickel pretty much all the time and still defend the run very well. How are they able to do that? What kind of challenges is it to see a defense doing that?
Yeah, that's their personnel. I mean, that's what they want to do, and they got the people to do it. And you look at 3, like he's this nickel body for them. But he's so big and long, and he has the ability to play the run at a very elite level, like a good linebacker can. But he's also really athletic and can cover, and he's really a jack of all trades for them. He allows them to do that. You know, but that's their philosophy of defense. And you look at other teams we've played, Houston's very similar. They have a nickel who's just a dynamic run defender and a good coverage guy. And teams that can do that, it's hard. It's a big challenge. And so that's their personnel, and that's what they do.
Yeah. What jumped out at you of how Brock directed the final drive in Philly, and how does that, I guess, reinforce him as a big game quarterback going into Seattle's atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, can't say enough about Brock's, you know, his poise and his competitiveness there at the end of the fourth quarter. I think Brock would tell you he didn't play his best game for the first 3 quarters of that game. He did a good job in some areas, but had some turnovers. But when it came down to the drives that mattered, the fourth quarter, the pressure of that moment, he was locked in. He didn't blink. That's kind of who he's been his whole career to me. He's had drives like that. He's had drives like that in the playoffs. When you go back to 23, we're going to need it on Sunday. We're going to need it on Saturday. You know, he did it in week 1. He's played good football in that environment, and that's what it's going to take to win. So,
did you or your brother text who first about the matchup?
There's been no texting this week. There's no time. It's 6-day week again. We got to just get to work. So,
do you feel fortunate that you guys have the depth of quality veterans as far as Robinson, Brian Robinson, DeMarcus, Tonjes? You got guys, you know, that can step in this situation. Yeah, it's been huge, you know, and the guys have come a long way as the year's gone on too, from where they started in training camp and just the growth. And that's what you need to be a good team. You need depth. You need veteran depth. You need young depth too. But those guys who've been here, you know, Jake's been here a few years, but those 2 guys you mentioned who came in camp and have just been working and learning the offense, and they're huge. They're just huge contributors for us right now. And so it's been it was definitely a big reason why we won last week. You saw D-Rob making those plays, so it's big.
Biggest challenge of facing a team twice in 3 weeks?
Man, I think, you know, just finding obviously what had happened in the last game and what adjustments you can make, but also like, man, we just played them 2 weeks ago. So looking back at the other game plan as well and having it sort of fresh in your mind and picking it up where you left off and obviously making some changes where you need to. But, yeah, it feels like we just played them. So
they were obviously effective against you. You go into it thinking, okay, they're going to like do the same thing, or do you figure, no, they're going to mix it up since we just saw them, or do you not worry about any of that, like Kyle and the coaches worry about, you know, how they might attack or whatever tweaks they might have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we look at the last game that's most recent, 2 weeks ago, and then you still got to look at, you know, the whole season and, you know, how they played just in general and who they are as a defense and stuff. But obviously Kyle and the coaches do a great job with understanding, you know, where we weren't great, where we were good, and what we can continue to be good at and build on those kind of things. But, you know, they do a good job with that. Like Kyle's done it, you know, year after year where we've played teams pretty quickly, like a quick turnaround, and has made some pretty good adjustments and stuff. But at the end of the day too, like you got to go out and execute and play a physical game, man, and execute on third down, stay on the field. And, you know, you can draw up all the plays that you want, but at the end of the day, man, it's can I be better than the guy across from me and do it longer? So
you've done nothing but win up in Seattle. So when friends ask you to describe the environment and what it's like to win up there, what do you tell them?
Yeah, it's one of the, you know, hardest places to play when it comes to the environment and the fans, and every down matters, and you have to be on point with everything, your communication, the operation, things like that, because it all matters, it all adds up. So, but when you're on top of it and you can execute, on the road, it can feel really good when you do your job at a high level. So, tough place to play, but it's worth it if you're on top of your stuff.
The defense is really talented, obviously, but it seems like they have an elite scheme, an elite play caller. What makes Mike McDonald such a challenge from a quarterback's perspective?
Yeah, he just does a good job of making the quarterback have to earn everything. And I feel like there's not a lot of easy, gimme plays out there. You have to play quarterback for 4 quarters and be smart with the ball and go through your progressions truly. And then on top of that, the front, how they coach up their front with the push in the pocket, playing pretty deep to short on a lot of things, and not allowing you to have a lot of explosive plays across the board. Like, you have to go earn every single yard. So, and that's obviously for the quarterback, but for the whole offense as a whole, it goes for everybody. So he does a good job with it. He's got a good scheme, and then on top of that, really good players.
Is it fair to say you can't be greedy and you have to sort of take what he gives you?
Definitely. Yep.
Is it easy for you to be patient like that?
Yeah, I think over the years I've sort of had to learn in certain situations, when to be patient, take what they give you, stay on the field and compete on third downs and do that the whole way. Or, there are a couple ops maybe of, if we do have a play call with an opportunity on and they give us a look, like, let's go and let's take it. So, it's just that fine balance. But, I've been up against this guy a couple times, and I feel like the theme of it has been definitely, be patient and find ways to stay on the field.
Francisco go into Seattle labeled as underdogs. Is that like a tagline that you guys cherish and relish going in?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day for us, it's like, we just focus on ourselves, man, and we watch the film against Philly, and all of us were also eager to get better from that. And then obviously we're in the playoffs now, so it's, we stayed alive, and we're alive right now. So for us, how can we just go and find a way and, play together and play our standard of ball as the 49ers? So that's how we look at it. Obviously, yeah, you can call us underdogs and everything, but, for us, man, we just focus on ourselves and go about it that way.
Rock, 3 years ago today, I think you made your playoff debut up there. How are you a better quarterback today than the guy that went into that game?
Sorry, you threw me off, because my first playoff debut was
3 years ago. I think today was your game in Seattle, first playoff game
here at home. But yes, yeah. Sorry.
How are you a better player than that player?
Yeah. Man, I just think, the system, how Kyle calls plays, what I need to do as a quarterback for 4 quarters. I just feel like I have a better grasp of that. My rookie year was sort of just, I got thrown out there and I knew the plays and everything, yes, but, man, I was just sort of just playing. And sometimes wishing, like, looking back and watching the film, like, man, I got to be smart in some situational football moments. And, I feel like now, 3 years later, I just feel better in that regard. So, but it's never easy. I'll say, like, it's the NFL. New guys come in, there's new scheme, there's new coaching, you name it. You have to find ways to adapt and be at your best every Sunday, and nothing's ever given to you just because you had success the last week or years past. So that's something that I've also sort of had to wrap my mind around mentally.
What's it been like for you, like just seeing Fred Warner, from the season-ending injury to now maybe not it being a season-ending injury? What has it done for the locker room just to have that window open for him, and there's a possibility that he could play at some point here?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Obviously, Fred he's different from anybody else in terms of, he can be labeled as having a, season-ending injury, and then all of a sudden just go hard on the rehab and get right just in case there is an opportunity. And so here we are, and it's pretty cool because he's done every little thing right. And just being around the locker room and stuff, and being around in the weight room at practice, it's just cool because you can feel him and his presence, and guys are like, man, like, 54 is right there around the corner, and obviously we do our job, handle our business, then we can get him back, which would be really cool. And guys feed off that. He's the captain here, man. He's the guy that we all follow. So and he set the standard of really how we play here. So to get him back would be really, really cool.
Yeah, what makes the He-Man Warrior such a tough guy to go against and plan for?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
What makes He-Man Warrior, I know it's number 3, such a tough guy to go against and plan for in these kind of games?
Yeah, obviously, like, he's a young, talented, flies around kind of player. You got length. He's a guy that is going to bring it for 4 quarters. He can cover. He can, drop back in zone. He can do it all. And so for all of us, like, we just got to do our job and be on top of our stuff. And, he's a guy that, you just got to be aware of, because if he catches you slipping, he's going to make you pay.
Christian, what excites you about this matchup, this rematch with the Seahawks?
Anytime you get a division opponent in the playoffs, it's always exciting.
Is there anything new you guys have ready for this game that you won't tell us, but exciting in the game plan?
Every week's an exciting week. This one, obviously, we got them the first one. They got us the second one, so it'll be a good one.
They see you twice a year. They see the Rams twice a year. They practice against their own offensive training camp, which uses the same offense. Can you see that in the defense, that it just, they're not going to get fooled by anything, that they're kind of well-versed to stop this particular offense?
I think every week presents different challenges. It's just about us going out there and executing.
Christian, as you look at the game from the last time you guys played them, was it more of something they did that you guys didn't do as you look to make adjustments for this game?
Yeah, they're a really good defense. They fly around well. They play great complementary defense. For us, it's just about going out there and executing.
Do you get involved with the trash talk at all? Do you even pay attention to that kind of stuff heading into a game?
No.
Eric Kendricks has talked about how A.J. Wright has really helped him get ready for this game. What do you see from those guys? I know you're not playing against them in practice, but what do you see from them getting ready for this game?
Oh, man, they're unbelievably hard workers. They come in the building every day, and they're working nonstop. They fly around in practice, and they're exactly what you would want on your team.
Is it pretty remarkable that Eric's been able to kind of seamlessly fit in when he just signed with the team maybe 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think it's very shocking that somebody can do that and have that kind of production and success, but then you're around him more and you know why, and it becomes, you really understand why he's not only been great this year, but been great throughout his entire career.
Obviously, Fred's on the defense, but what kind of boost does it give a locker room to lose a guy like Kittle, in such a terrible injury, but then get a guy like Fred back the next week after he suffered a really traumatic injury earlier this season?
Yeah, you can't replace a guy like Kittle. It's a team effort to try to replace the kind of energy and production that he brings to our team. Anytime you get guys back, it's extremely exciting. You want to just keep pushing, keep fighting, and continue to play with the example that those guys have set.
Does the loss in Week 18 add any extra motivation to this game?
A playoff game against the division opponent, and we just saw him 2 weeks ago. I think pretty fired up.
Christian, a little talk John Lynch makes about culture around here. What was sort of the aha moment for you when you got here, where you realized things would be different here?
I don't think there was an aha moment. I think it's been just a consistency that I've noticed. It's been every day guys are the same. Hard work, production, and execution is rewarded, and the opposite isn't. And it's pretty simple. I don't think there's like there's not some secret recipe. They've done a hell of a job getting the right kind of people into this locker room, and the leaders have done a great job since they've been here on setting the standard.
Now that you've had time to go back and look at the catch that you made, that scored the go-ahead touchdown, or the one that got you the lead, do you look and think like, well, was it as difficult as it looked and as hard as it was to catch?
It was a tough catch. We've well moved on into this week, though. Glad we got that win last week, but we're on to this week.
Eric Kendricks talked about how knowing that this was the right place, it took him a while to sign getting in here. But when he came in here, he said, the selflessness in this locker room is different than what he's seen throughout the league. Do you feel the same?
Definitely, yeah. I think, there's a lot of great players, a lot of talented players, but we play as a team. And, I think you don't know what's going to happen in a game. With the kind of coaches that we have, you could have a game with 200, or you could have a game where you're going to rely on blocking and doing your part in that sense. And so you don't know what's going to happen. That's why it's just about doing your job on every play. And then at the end of the day, we just want to win.
How does the body feel?
I feel amazing. Let me just say, just so grateful, blessed to be back. And, I think obviously when all this happened, I didn't really think about the possibility of returning in season, but the way things progressed and being able to have this opportunity to be back with my teammates and have a chance at helping them win this week and so on and so forth. That's my only goal going forward.
Yeah, many would say that this was a miraculous recovery, given the injury that you had. What would you credit that to? Is it the hyperbaric chamber? Is it the trainers? What did you spend most of your time doing so that you could make this return?
Yeah, I think it's it speaks to everybody that has been in my corner this entire time. You mentioned the trainers, the strength staff, the plan that they put together for me, helping push me along. I can go down the line of everybody that was involved, but it truly did take an army to help me get to this point. God bless my wife. She was 8-9 months pregnant, trying to take care of me when I was on that scooter. So, yeah, like I said, I'm just super blessed to be right where I'm at. I think the question was asked at my that first meeting with the doctor to kind of see how the bone was healing, and I put that question out there to him. It was probably a few weeks after my surgery, and said, in a different world, would I be able to come back? And he said, yeah, it's a possibility. Those first 6 weeks when you're not in weight bearing, those are all kind of the same, and then after that, you can manipulate the way that you rehab going forward aggressively, safely, of course. To ultimately get back to this point, and so that's kind of what we did, and still got a little ways to go before being fully cleared to step out there in a game.
He's got to be the biggest cheerleader this weekend.
We're taking it day by day. I think they said last week they weren't going to open my window, and then my window's now open. So, we're just taking it day by day.
So what is your expectation, though? Is your expectation to be able to play this weekend? I know you're saying you're taking it day by day, but what's the expectation?
The expectation is to continue to take it day by day and see where we're at.
Fred, what's it been like to watch your guys get to this point without you and obviously without Pig, losing people all week to week, and still get to this point?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to who we are here at the 49ers, the culture and the standard that's been built by everybody top down. The depth that we've been able to create at every position. But like you mentioned, we've lost guys at almost every position throughout the season, and guys have stepped up in a huge way to get us to this position. And of course, it's going to take another one this week against a great test in Seattle again for the third time this season. So, it speaks to everybody involved.
There's a lot of excitement about your potentially returning. Is there any concern about being too quick? Have you ever kind of just considered the possibility of maybe it won't happen this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, everything up to this point has been in direct communication with the doctors, the trainers, everybody involved with my surgery. Nothing up to this point has been done just out of hey, man, let's just go out and do it, just out of pure will. Everything is scientifically based, right? So anytime you step out there on a football field, of course, I didn't think that day in Tampa Bay I was going to get rolled up on and dislocate and fracture my ankle, but that's what this game is. It's a violent game. But at the same time, I'm not going to go out there and put myself at an added risk if I'm not ready.
Fred, what's the mental hurdle of trying to get back? We're talking about the physical, but the mental aspect of you trying to get back after such a devastating injury.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, once I put that helmet on and put the shoulder pads on, I know what it is, right? Like, I know how to play this game. I know what I'm capable of. I think the mental hurdle was kind of just having to rewatch the play in the beginning of it all, to really just soak it in and see what I did to myself, right? And once I was able to own that and just be able to attack the rehab process, everything was a go from there. So, that part's behind me, and now it's football.
On the emotional side, what was it like to be out there yesterday?
It felt like another day at the office. It's just been like I've been away for a little bit, but being back, having the practice jersey on again, being back out there today with the helmet on and running around with the guys, I'm sure will be great. But I'll have time to reminisce on all that after it's all over. My only goal right now is to have the best day ever today, to have a chance to be in Seattle.
What was your most difficult day going through this, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I've spoken on it a couple of times, on my podcast and stuff, just moments where I was on that scooter and just couldn't really fend for myself, having to rely on my wife a lot. I'd never sustained a serious injury like this, so having to rely on my wife and other people around me to kind of help me along was tough in the beginning, but once I kind of settled in and started attacking the rehab process, it was a lot better.
What were your emotions on Sunday as the Niners were pulling it off in Philly, and how'd you watch that game?
Yeah, the feelings were intense. I remember pregame watching that because I'm at home and my wife was watching me kind of pace back and forth. I couldn't even sit down. Like the energy, just being at my house, knowing that what they were getting themselves into going on the road against Philly in a hostile environment, like those are the moments you dream of in the playoffs against a really good football team. And so to pull that off was outstanding. Another big test this week.
You plan to travel either way this week?
We're still deciding.
Is there able to use your progress as a motivational chip for the guys out there? Obviously, there's a lot of excitement about the possibility. Have you told them, get here and I'll be there, that sort of thing? I mean, they've targeted next week potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously had communication and conversations with my teammates the entire way about it, right? But everything that they've done on the field up to this point has been a testament to them and the preparation that they put in every single week. And obviously, I'm here just to be a resource where I can.
But, obviously George is a huge part of what we do. So, like I said, after the game, I don't think anybody would have blamed us for not being able to pull that out, losing a guy like George that early. But, George, spirit, the energy, it lives through this team. So, I mean, just even talking to him in the locker room, he was like, obviously he wasn't happy, but his spirits was just really in a good place, and it gave us that, that resolve to say, okay, our brother's good, let's go do this for him.
At halftime.
Yeah.
Is this a different kind of? I mean, we know this locker room has been good, but has it been even better this year for some reason, or just because of surviving all these things?
Yeah, I think it's brought us closer, 100% sure. We've got guys that came in a month ago. Guys came in 2 months ago. Guys came in at the beginning of the year. And, it's just been a collective effort to bring everybody along and try to get everybody up to speed. And, I think just that in itself has brought us all closer.
Speaking of that, when it comes to, obviously, the heart and soul of the locker room, that's what you guys were saying about Fred when Fred went down. We lost the heart and soul of the locker room. But it's the same sentiment. You lose a guy like George Kittle, it sounds like. But then you get a guy like Fred back, coincidentally, right after George Kittle goes down. Is that somewhat of a motivator or offset? Like, what is that in the minds of you guys?
For me personally, I just think the fact that Fred is even has a jersey on, less than 100 days after what happened to him, that's just uplifts the team. Whether Fred takes the field in these playoffs or not, that's motivation, having him there, just having his face in his locker room, it's motivation. It helps everybody, So yeah, I think getting him in the wake of losing Kittle, does it make the loss any easier? No, but I do think that it does give us a little bit of boost of energy just seeing his face.
There's a lot of talk here about how important culture is to this team. Was there, a moment when you got here where you realized that, whoa, this place is different?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my first walkthrough here in 2020, full sprint, and I never once in my life seen that. And I'm looking around for guys to be just as confused as me or complaining, kind of like, yo, slow down. And everybody was moving at the same pace. So it was like, oh, you gotta get along. You gotta come along with them and kind of fit yourself in this culture. And, that wasn't hard to do, in my opinion, just because obviously I got a lot of faith in Kyle, but just seeing his thumbprint on this team and seeing how perennial All-Pro, Pro Bowl guys like Fred, Juice, Kittle, everybody was bought in. And they, it makes it easier for not only myself, but for everybody who's new stepping into this locker room. It makes it for like a soft landing spot, when you got everybody in here pushing the same theory, pushing the same type of production that we expect out of each other, everybody holding each other accountable. I think it all helps this locker room maintain the character and maintain the, I guess you call it the standard what everybody would expect.
Trent, sorry if you've been asked this. Was that a holding call? Was that a
Huh?
Is that a holding call?
On which one?
A lot of Philly fans were discussing on the game-winning touchdown pass. Oh, Trent was holding.
Oh, really? I didn't see a flag. You know, hey, you only get a speeding ticket when you get pulled over, right? You gotta be. I didn't see a flag, you know, so.
Last one, guys. Last one, guys. Is it uniquely selfless?
Yeah, I think it is. And I mean, obviously, we got a reason to feel that way, but I think so. Like I said, you look at all the people that we have contributing to this run right now. A lot of those guys wouldn't even know any 49er fans' radar in August. You know, a lot of those guys wouldn't even in this locker room in August. So, yeah, I think this is more of a selfless locker room than others because it's lack of all the superstars that you're used to. Like a team this successful usually has a Rolodex of superstars on the roster, you know, and we don't have that. We just have a bunch of guys that's bought in, a resilient bunch, and they just play to the whistle no matter what.
I'll say every game is the same, so that's what I would say. You know, everything is out the window when it's game time. It's taking preparation and taking it to the game.
You've been with Brock all the way through every trip to Seattle. What's his demeanor in that atmosphere, and why is he able to kind of clutch on environments like that in Philly?
I think that's who Brock is. That's just who he is. I think it's simple as that.
Tough to lose George, but you get Fred back this week. How does it kind of feel here in the locker room, knowing to see Fred's face in here?
Been seeing him all year long, so always good to see Fred.
It's the possibility of him returning add some hope, some stakes to what you guys are playing for here on top of just being in the playoffs.
What do you mean by being in the playoffs?
Could potentially be back.
Okay, Fred. We're still on Fred?
Yeah.
Okay. It's always great seeing Fred count. Like, who wouldn't want to have Fred out there, you know? So, just hoping that he's, you know, healing up in the right space. Always seeing him, like we said. So, if that happens, that happens. You know, we're focused on this game plan, you know, short turnaround. So, yeah, we're ready to see, you know, Seahawks. That's it.
What has this year been like for you playing through a contract here? Just the challenges, the pressures
It's been
of that?
fun. I would say mostly it's been fun. You know, growing up as a little boy, this is all you could ever dreamed of. So, being this opportunity, just grateful and looking forward to it.
It's only Wednesday. I got a feeling you eat, breathe, sleep, close your eyes, you see Seahawks. It looks like you were just you're locked in like today.
Exactly. It's just like I was explaining to her. It's week to week, so every game is like as close as possible to the last game. You know, you really have to take every day into your own hands, and that's taking coaching and taking the game plan and learning it every day, you know, and that's as a team and trusting each other, and companionship is just, you know, of course, built over this season, and look to where we are now.
When you see all the Super Bowl prep going on around the stadium, do you kind of take that as a temptation and motivation even more? I know you're focused on.
I think it's cool. Honestly, I look at it as like, dang, like it's cool as an owner to be able to do this. Like, honestly, that's what I look at. Like, he got general contractors out here getting it in. That's cool. That's how I look at it, because they at work and I'm heading into work.
Kyle mentioned a few weeks ago that your sideline argument, I think it was in Tampa, kind of helped your guys' relationship just to get everything out there and just have that competitive spirit. How's that, you know, how do you view that sort of thing where you're kind of challenging and trying to make sure that, you know, you're seeing that you guys are on the same page?
I think what you're trying to ask me is would tell me that made our relationship, that made the season better. I think they don't have nothing to do with X's and O's at all. So, you know, great for companionship, you know, friendship, mentorship, all that. You know, you learn that through your family members at home. Great for all that, but when it comes to the football field, I don't really think it has too much to do with it.